Yo, what the actual fuck is happening with this movie? And I'm not saying that in a bad way per se, but this shit, for this movie to have been decades in the making, I'm not gonna say it's all over the place, but this is has got to be the strangest fucking news. And you know what? Let's just backtrack, people. Let's everybody just calm down, all right? Especially me, because this is something I've been curious about since the script was leaked online. I'm talking about the early days of like AOL dial-up and shit like that, upcomingmovies.com and shit like that. Before Land of the Dead was a thing, George A. Romero's movie, I think his fourth movie was originally Twilight of the Dead. And he wanted to do in that movie a lot of shit that he didn't get to do in Day of the Dead because they didn't have the budget. He wanted a above ground battle sequence. He wanted this, this like this armored bus which would become Dead Reckoning in the movie. It was a lot smaller, but he wanted this armored bus and all this other shit. And then I remember, the movie was called Dead Reckoning at one point in time, and then they ended up just naming the armored truck Dead Reckoning and Land of the Dead. But this movie, man, this shit has been in development for so long. Like, the first news I remember was that this project had been revived and they were going to honor George A. Romero's wishes, and Brad Anderson, I think the director's name is, the guy that did The Machinist, was going to do this. And I was like, who? I was like, The Machinist. And then I went and watched The Machinist and I was like, wow. I was like, this movie is almost, I want to say I almost gave it a 10 out of 10. It's a really brilliant film. But like this, and then Mila Jovovich was the lead role in this, and I was really concerned because I'm like, is Paul W.S. Anderson going to produce this shit now? Are we going to have Mila with a bunch of wire work? I don't want this shit to turn into Resident Evil, The Matrix. You know what I'm saying? And it's not that I don't like Mila Jovovich, but she is an action star. I don't look at George A. Romero's Dead Saga as action movies. There's a lot of social commentary in it, heavy social commentary without shoving it in your face type of thing. But I look at it as the movies went on, it was more a play on how humanity is going to survive amongst each other, and the zombies weren't so much the threat anymore. It was the humans amongst each other, different classes of people and things like that. But now we got Kate Beckinsale, and we got a whole different director on here. I'm not familiar with I think it's two directors that have been tapped for this project, but Kate Beckinsale, I think Kate Beckinsale is a really great actress, but it brings me back to what I was fearful about with Mila Jovovich being on the project, because they're both queens of the wire work. Like, they're both queens of their respective franchises and action. They're action stars, none to say the least, man. And as much as I like Kate Beckinsale, I'm almost sure y'all might want to, are y'all going to turn this into an action movie? Because I don't want that. I don't want that for the finale of a George A. Romero zombie movie. Like, there can be action sequences in it, but I don't want everybody flipping around doing no fucking, a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon shit. I don't want all of that shit in a final George A. Romero movie. But the crazy thing is where I'm like, all right, we might end up getting that, man. It don't matter what the fuck I say, because the person that they're about to hire, or that they did hire to do the stunt work on this movie, is the same guy that did the stunt work for Bullet Train. I have not seen Bullet Train, but I know it looks like, when I first saw the trailer years back, I said, this is smoking aces on a train, and the action's going to be absolutely bonkers. And I know it is. I still haven't watched the movie. I know I'm missing out on that, but this is like, I'm glad that this movie's happening. I'm glad it's gonna see the light of day. But on the flip side of that coin, I'm like, I feel like we're losing sight of what George A. Romero's series was hitting for, man. Granted, I do feel like the movies in the Dead Saga rank as they were released. I think Night of the Living Dead, first of all, we already know, greatest zombie movie, greatest movie of all time for me personally. Dawn of the Dead, if you want to call it a sequel, one of the greatest sequels of all time. I don't argue anybody down if they say it's the best sequel of all time, the best of the saga. I have no argument for that. Day of the Dead is a super underrated film. I didn't find an appreciation for Day of the Dead until years later, in probably my teenage years. And Land of the Dead is where I really start to lose sight of the emotional attachments to the characters. John Leguizamo was a badass, but Land of the Dead, I feel like, as much as I love George A. Romero, that's a movie where he had too much money, where we got obvious green screen, we've got obvious and really bad CG at times, you've got CG blood. It just was like, it was kind of over the top, but that was his vision. I get the gist of it. Diary of the Dead was a huge fucking step down. That's one of the worst. I hate to say it, but it is one of the worst found footage movies that I've seen. The quick edits to make you feel like you are still in the same shot with the shit happening in real time. The edits are obvious. It's some cool kills, some cool zombie kills in there, but the characters are annoying as fuck. The only characters I liked in Diary of the Dead was the professor who was drinking out the flask and the nerdy dude with the glasses. I liked them a lot. Survival of the Dead is one of the worst fucking zombie movies I've ever seen. That shit was, the acting's terrible, the characters are unlikable, the zombies aren't effective, the effects look like, not the zombie effects, but the CG looks like shit. I just wasn't invested in that story or those characters or the zombies for that matter. I wasn't rooting for any fucking body at that point, man. But this I think we're completely about to shift gears with this, man, and I think that can be a big fucking problem, especially because, like, I'm not gonna call myself a George A. Romero purist, but as a fan of the Dead Saga, as somebody who's like really passionate about that shit, especially the foundation of it, I feel like we're really about to shift gears and lose sight of what this shit originally was about. I don't know how much of George A. Romero's original ideas or script that are going to be in this film. But by the way that this is sounding, I feel like this is kind of going to take some liberties with the original idea. I could be wrong about this. I'm just like, this ain't like panic anxiety inducing or anything like that, but I'm just like, I'm looking at him like, all right, man. It's like, it's like you get your inexperienced relative to drive your car to the corner store, and it's only down the street, and that they could possibly be a liability, but you want to trust them, you want to trust the process, and it's like, all right, man, bring my shit back in one piece, and then they're rolling just on the four tires, like they're bringing the four tires back with no fucking car frame at all, no engine, no nothing, not even a steering wheel. Yeah, that might, I don't know. This could be one of those situations. I don't know, man, but I'm happy this is happening, but I'm a little weary about it. I don't think anything could be worse than Night of the Living Dead 3D. Night of the Living Dead Reanimated, Resurrection. There's a new Night of the Living Dead coming out with Vivica Fox. It doesn't look good. There was one that was supposed to be coming out that was a direct sequel to Night of the Living Dead, and I'm like, that's a no-brainer. Like, Judith O'Dea is still alive. We never saw Barbara die. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Like, that is a theory that I've grown to really stand 10 toes down on. We never saw Barbara get eaten, and Judith O'Dea is still alive. So if they ever did a direct sequel to Night of the Living Dead where Barbara scurried away and Johnny had the keys, like, come on now. Like, it's right there. But obviously we ain't gonna get that. I'm theorizing and all of that kind of shit. But this right here, I don't know, man. I just don't know. I'm on the fence about it, but I'm grateful that George A. Romero's, like, his legacy is still living on. Like, he's the fucking Tupac of horror movie directors, man. He really truly is. Like, because even in death, this man's name is still ringing bells. He's still got projects. He's still got his name attached to projects, whether they're corny or not. He's not going anywhere no time soon. So, like, I don't know, man. I guess I'll be patient. I'll try to be open-minded. I don't sound like I believe myself, do I? At all.